The Fountain from 2006. This is a movie directed and co-written by Darren Aronofsky, starring Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz. And the plot summary: as a modern-day scientist, Tommy is struggling with mortality, desperately searching for the medical breakthrough that will save the life of his cancer-stricken wife, Izzy. That's one part of this movie. This movie has several plots going on in three different time periods. So that's just the
Mhm.
present day one. There's also a past conquistador trying to find the Fountain of Youth, and then a future story of a lone spaceman traveler in this bubble ship going to a star with a tree in it. That's sort of like, if people haven't seen this movie, that's kind of like the three things going on. And the reason why I chose this as my wild card, like I said, I had always associated Hugh Jackman with Wolverine, and he was Wolverine to me, even in the other movies I'd see him in around this time when he started branching out to non X-Men films more broadly. But this was the first time for me, at least, when I saw him, I didn't think of Wolverine. I didn't see any of his Logan character and characteristics in this performance. And this to me made me view him more as okay, well, he's not just like a Christopher Reeve Superman, where Christopher Reeve was a good actor, but he'll always be associated with that character. I mean, obviously his career was cut a little bit short, but he is Superman, like on and off the screen, and that's all the people will remember him for good reason. I mean, I love Christopher
Mhm.
Reeve, but this was the first time for me I realized, oh, okay, Hugh Jackman, when he hopefully in many, many years passes away and they write his obituary, obviously Wolverine will be mentioned in there, but it's not just going to be Wolverine. There will be other things. And this is the first movie to me that made me kind of realize that. Like, oh, this is
Mhm.
actually like a good, I don't want to say good actor, but it's someone with range outside of just playing Logan or different versions of Logan in other movies. And I'll get into more of my thoughts on the film too, because it is one of my favorite movies of all time. But yeah, like had you seen this before? What are your thoughts of Hugh in this movie? It's an interesting performance. Obviously, playing three potentially different characters, or maybe they're all the same character. And there's a lot
Right.
of questions about what this movie is. But curious on your thoughts on Hugh.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, this movie is probably the biggest display of his kind of theatrical roots because of that, because there's so
Hmm.
much that he has to do and physically and how, these storylines kind of interact and how these characters are built up and performance style. Like he sort of has to do all of it. And I can't imagine that many number of people of this time frame and age group actually pull it off. And because there weren't that many leading men types, I guess, from the theater background that sort of made it. I think he gets to do all of that. I will say though, like the way Prisoners and Denis is not your thing, Aronofsky is not my thing because
Hmm.
it's just too much, it's just too much. And this I tried watching this movie once before and I just couldn't get past the first sequence,
Hmm.
but I was glad to sort of push through this time to appreciate at least the artistry and what he's trying to say and all the themes and the ideas. Like I get all of that, but it's just too much, and that's how I always feel, other than Black Swan, I think. Not that I've seen all of his movies, maybe not, but that's usually what I feel. In fact, if there is a theater kid in a director's body, it's Aronofsky.
He dials everything up to 11. That,
Everything up.
that's that I respond well to, and why I like him as a
Right.
filmmaker. And but you raise an interesting point with Hugh Jackman actually too, of you need in an Aronofsky movie, especially
Yeah.
this one, you need to be big, and Hugh can deliver on that. Actually, the original actor was Brad Pitt that was supposed to be in this movie when it was like four times the budget. It was this big thing, and then they kind of got scaled down.
I
And I
see.
just don't think that Pitt
No.
would have worked in this. Even the other version of this movie that it was a lot more epic at scale. But I don't think Brad Pitt would have worked in the movie as much as Hugh Jackman does, because he matches the energy of Aronofsky, which is, yeah, very big, dialed up to 11 on everything. And that's just how he delivers his art, which Hugh Jackman fits into that mold well. I think that was an interesting. I never thought about that before. Of like, he actually is perfect casting in that
Yeah.
sense. Like, very few movie stars have that, yeah, theater kid energy, which isn't like a knock to all the theater kids out there. Like, we're not knocking that. It's just a certain vibe and energy that is an expression that, at least when I say it, I don't mean any kind of judgment or say it's a bad thing to have that type of energy. It's just a very certain type of energy that works sometimes and doesn't work others. But this is a movie that is all of that type of energy. So I think he works really well in it.
Yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, this movie, it's a
Yeah,
lot. I feel
th
like I'm still recovering from this movie.
oh really? It's only like an hour and a half, which is always so. Every time I watch this, I'm like, it feels like you just watched some,
Yeah,
2.5 hour epic thing, and it's
yeah,
only 90 minutes basically, and
true.
it's really not. The sets are kind of small. Like when you kind of think about it too, it's like there's
Yeah,
only like two actors, three actors, just a lot of themes, a lot of rumorations on death and what that means and how what life means and all these large themes. But
mm-hmm.
the scale of the movie in a weird way is kind of small. I felt that at least on this. I mean, I've
Yeah,
seen this movie like a dozen times at least. I hadn't seen it maybe in like 2 years, but this on this watch, I really noticed that yeah, it's actually really not that big. It just feels big because of the
right.
energy that Darren and to your point, Hugh Jackman
You.
also puts into this. It just feels like you're experiencing some big thing when it's not really that big
No.
on paper at least.
Yeah. And that's sort of my thing, right? Like when you have, I feel that imbalance. And that's what I feel with Aronofsky often, that if the canvas was bigger, then the dialing up to the 14 would,
Hmm.
just have more room to breathe and sort of land on you versus here, because the vessel is small, but there's like so much packed into it, so much coming out of it. You
Hmm.
have to be, really ready for it. And you either are or you're not.
Yeah, he definitely is a polarizing filmmaker in that sense. Even again, he's one of my favorites, but someone when he misses bad. Like
Oh, yeah.
Mother, I can't
Because of
stand.
that. Yeah.
But The Fountain is one of my favorite movies. Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan. Like when he hits, like it's just it totally works for me. And this movie too, like every time I see it, also it's sort of one of those films that unlocks different meanings, and I look at it a different way at a different stage of my life. Because originally I thought it was a lot more of a love story and like a romance when I first saw it 20 years ago, and now just as an older person, I could definitely see this being a lot the themes of death and
Right.
coming to terms with your own mortality and viewing death as part of life and it just as natural as being alive as opposed to some disease, which is what Hugh Jackman's character is hanging on to. Oh, it's something terrible, we hate death, we got to fight it, we got to it's unnatural, even though actually it's the most natural thing
Hmm.
that the humans will go through. That part it resonated with me a lot
Yeah.
more deeply on this time, and the three stories too. Every time I see the movie, I seem to interpret each one in like a different way, and not only in terms of what it is, but what it's trying to say and how it connects back to the main themes of this movie, which again are about death, mortality, living life in the moment, because that is what death is as natural as life, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. It's one of those movies for me, at least, that every time I see it, it think about it in a different way, which is cool.
Yeah.
I do like movies like that continue to challenge me. I feel different things every time I see it, and I did on this rewatch, like I said. And I also want to call out too, just the score is one of my favorite
Yeah.
film scores
Great
of all
score.
time. Like I listen to this a lot. It's just incredible. Clint Mansell, I think, is his best
Yeah.
work on this
And
movie.
their collaboration has been amazing over the years. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it definitely has that quality. I can see, even though I only seen it the one time, that it has sort of that the more you come back to it, you'll find other meanings. It's just that all of his work, because it's so dialed up and it's self-aware that, oh, you're going to find all these meanings here. It has sort of that school project
Oh yeah, no, I
energy
hear you.
to it,
Yeah, yeah.
which rubs me not in the best way. Because like, oh, this, that, oh, you're going to find different meanings as you grow. And I kind of feel that, and that puts me at a distance as
Right.
opposed to somebody who's sort of more chill about it and let the audience sort of just do that. But yeah, there's like a spoon feeding sort of quality to it because of how he does it. But that said, to make a movie like this on a lesser budget, to pack in all these ideas, get these performances out, that takes something.
Oh, absolutely. And I think much like my rubbing up against Denis Villeneuve's sort of approach to film and to art, but he is an artist. Like that makes these people like Aronofsky and Denny not just like journeyman filmmakers. They have a very specific point of view, and because each individual person has their own points of view too, either you really connect with it or you rub up against it. And I think that's always fascinating. I actually like that we talked about both of these filmmakers and movies kind of back to back, because it opens up these interesting conversations we have on this show where yes, there's a lot of things that we share in common, but we are two different people that have,
Right.
different, as everyone is different, right? And I like when we find these either filmmakers or movies that really work for one of us, but don't for the other person, and just exploring the space in between that. I always find
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. And it makes me appreciate these movies more when I hear the things that rubs you the wrong way, and then I'm sure it does the same thing for
Yeah,
you. It's fun. Like I like that this can when this happens, and it's just fun. It happened back to
totally.
back on a filmmaker is one of my favorites, and I don't like Denny, and you're the opposite of it. It's just fun to talk about those movies.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.